So what I've done already is downloaded your two files, so your part file and your assembly file, put them in a directory on this virtual machine, and then I've set my working directory to that folder or that directory, and then I'm just going to load in those files. So I think what I'll do first, I'll load the assembly in. I get this error message, but that's just because we're using the remote desktop, and the first thing I can notice is there's some errors with the reference part and the workpiece. Now I've already been in here and sort of corrected these once just to investigate what was wrong there, and I think although this is only a guess, for some reason this reference model has been renamed. And then if I bring in the file that it's supposed to reference, the name of this file is different. So you can see this one's called mold bbc1ref1.part, and this one isn't. So the first thing that I did here was I took a copy of this name. So this is the file name that it's looking for. It's looking for a part file that's called this. So if I do a copy on that name in there, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to shut the assembly down. So I've shut the assembly down now because I want to make a change to the part file, and I don't want the assembly open when I make that change. So I've got to erase not displayed as well, because as we said in the sessions, it keeps everything in memory until you erase it. So I've erased that now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the part file in. So here's the part file, and what I want to do is rename this. So there's a few ways to do this. I could save a new copy of this and give it a new name. So I could go save as, save it as a copy, and then I'd end up with two copies of this part file. Then I could delete the original if it wasn't required, but probably the easiest way to do this is down at the Manage File menu. There's a rename option, and there's a couple of different settings in here. You can see it's set to rename it on the disk and in the session, so it will change the name of the one that I'm looking at on the screen, but it will also overwrite the one that's already in the folder, so that's on the hard disk, with this new name as well. So it does both jobs for you if you select this top option. So I'm just going to paste that name in that I took a copy of. So that's the name that I want to rename it to. Click on OK. Again, I get this error message. This is just because we're using the remote desktop. So you can see it's renamed it. It's given it the new name. If I look on the hard disk, so if I go to open a new file, you can see it's renamed it actually in the folder as well. So it's done what we thought it should do. So I can leave that open now. I could shut that down if I wanted to, but I don't really want to. So now if I open this assembly up, I should have got rid of at least one of those error messages. You can see there, it can now find this part file. So the name that it is looking for is in the working directory. Now the next thing that there seems to be a problem with is the workpiece. So I think the technique that I showed you to generate a workpiece was just to do a workpiece as an offset of the reference model. So just give it some offsets in all directions. So I think what I'll do, I'll try and create a new workpiece. So I'll click on workpiece here. The reference model has already been entered into there, so it knows what reference model. It hasn't got an origin and a coordinate system, so it needs that. So it's waiting for a little bit of input there. It's already got the arrow selected. So I'm going to give it the mold default coordinate system as my origin point. So if I click on there, it puts that in there, and then it opens up the offsets options for us to define whatever we want in terms of the offsets. I'll just simplify this and put 5mm in there. I think we talked about putting a little bit more offset in the Z direction maybe, but you can play around with that. So click on OK, and it should create a working reference model. So yeah, it's created a new, sorry, not reference model, workpiece. It's created a new workpiece. It's put it at the bottom of the model tree here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag it to just below the reference model, which is where it should be really. So there you go, there's the new workpiece. So we've actually ended up with 2 workpieces here, so I don't need 2, so I'm going to right click and delete one of these. Now some of the work that you've done here, it's saying, well, we're going to lose some of this, so maybe I'll cancel that and try and delete this other one here. Yeah, it's more happy with that. So we've got a working reference model, we've got a working workpiece. Next, let's investigate the silhouette curve. So I think what I'll do is I'll temporarily hide some things here because it's getting a bit sort of crowded on the screen. So I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to hide this as well. So we're investigating the silhouette curve. So here's the silhouette curve, and I say curve, it's actually curves. So you can see in red when I click on the silhouette curve, it highlights it in red. You can see that there's a single curve that runs round the outside of your knife design. So you can see that going all the way around the outside. But then there's lots of little red curves. Wherever there's a hole that punches entirely through your design, it puts another silhouette on there. Because as we talked about in the classes again, the silhouettes are kind of what they say. They're a silhouette. So if you view from the pull direction, so you can see the pull direction's pointing straight at the camera now, it's the silhouette that you would see. If there was a bright light behind this shining towards you, the silhouette is all that you would see. So you'd see the line around the outside, and you'd see these lines, which are cut-throughs through your design. So it's created multiple silhouette curves. So what we're going to have to do with these is, certainly initially we're going to create a skirt surface from this outer one to the outer faces of our workpiece. So let's do that now. So we want to be in parting surface. Yeah, we want to create a parting surface. And what are we going to do? Extend curve. So yeah, extend curve. And it's already picked the most appropriate curve to extend here. I'm just going to click on OK and see what it comes up with. That looks good so far. So I'm going to drag that up the model tree because I want that as my next feature. If I want to view what that looks like in isolation, there should be an option here, show only. I was expecting it to hide the workpiece there, but that looks pretty much what we need for the outer edge at least. But we've still got all these holes, and we need to put surfaces in those as well. So how do we do that? I think the fill loops option, because these are classed as loops. They're closed groups of edges, and they form a loop. So fill loop, and then if we try clicking the silhouette curve here, yeah, it has a certain degree of intelligence. So even though that silhouette curve feature here included the curve around the outside of the part as well, because we're asking it to fill loops, it kind of does a little bit of analysis and it sees which ones we've used already, and then it selects the most likely ones, and you can see they've all highlighted in red. So we'll click on that. Yep, we can see visually there it's filled them all in. Is there anything else? So it looks like we may have a bit of an issue down here. We may have to do some extending to get to the outside of our workpiece. So for whatever reason, when it's created, oh, we've got a little bit of corruption here. Again, this is just because we're using the remote desktop. There we go, that's gone. Right, so we've got a little bit of extending to do as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these up the feature tree. So let's try. What tools have we got? So as you can see, for whatever reason, that original skirt surface hasn't quite reached the outside of our workpiece there. Now that might be a way that the actual part has been constructed, that extending that surface hasn't quite worked, but that's okay. We can fix that by adding in our other little triangular surfaces in order to extend that skirt surface that it's generated automatically. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hide the workpiece because what I want to do initially is I want to sketch on that surface itself. So I'm going to create a little triangular shape within a sketch. So if I click on the surface, click on the sketch icon, it should rotate my view round, so I'm looking at that, and then I'm going to use the project tool just to steal a copy of that edge, and then I don't need the select tool anymore, and then I'm going to get my line tool and draw a couple of lines, and then press escape, and then escape again to get out the line tool, and then I'm going to lock this edge to be vertical. So I don't need to dimension any of that. That will grow and shrink as the design is modified in the future. So click on OK. So I've got my little sketch there. So I can now create a surface within the boundaries of that sketch. So I've still got the sketch selected. Click on Parting Surface and click on Fill, just like we did for the holes in there. But you can see I've temporarily suppressed the surface that we created in there. So Fill creates another surface, and then what I want to do is I want to merge these two surfaces together so that they become one. But in order to allow me access to the merge command, I have to select one of the surfaces, hold down Control, select the other, so I've got them both selected there, and then click on merge, and it gives me a little preview with this kind of hatching, this square hatching across it, showing me what I will end up with, and that's it. They've been merged together, and a new surface is available in the model tree there called merge. So we can do the same thing with the other side there. We can create another triangular sketch, we can fill that triangular sketch in, and then when we've filled it and we've got a surface there, we click on the surface, hold down Control, click on the other surface, and then merge them together, and we'll get another merge. So in that way we can build up our parting surfaces either manually, like we're doing here, so we're having to manually help the system along, or more often than not, as long as our design isn't too complex, the automatic creation methods, so the extend curves and fill loops and silhouette edges, will do the job for us. It's just that occasionally we have to manually step in and just help the system slightly. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to roll my I'm still in the parting surface menu there, so I'm going to click there to get out, and then I can pull this bar underneath and my fill surface will become visible again. So hopefully that should help, and then obviously when you've got all these parting surfaces as you want them, and the ones that need to meet the workpiece outer faces have been created, you can then start doing your ref part cutouts and all that sort of subsequent work. So hopefully that's helped a little bit.